Hi, I'm Scott Gentile of A2A Simulations, and we have just released our latest Accu-Sim pack for the B-17 Flying Fortress. And this is part 1 of 5 tutorial videos to help our customers get better acquainted with their Accu-Sim B-17 Flying Fortress. Engine management was a very large part of the training for a United States military pilot. Combustion engine theory and aircraft systems were taught in depth. The reason was simple. As a pilot in command, you had to think on your feet. If something went wrong, you had to know how things worked. Your crew looked to you for the answers, and the choices you make as pilot in command have to be made from a fundamentally sound understanding of the entire aircraft and all of its systems. And this is where the maintenance hangar comes in. Because when you are flying this B-17, this maintenance hangar is your communication with your crew chief. When real pilots are reviewing their aircraft with their crew chief, they're not just getting a written report, but they're talking about the issues. So what we have done is give you these engine cutaways, so you can quickly understand what's going on with the aircraft, just as if the crew chief was telling you himself. For example, your crew chief might turn to you and say, "I noticed your number 3 engine was running a little rough, so I did a compression check. And 2 of the cylinders came up low, but 1 cylinder failed, and we should replace it." And you might say, "Okay, well, let's replace that cylinder, and I will keep an eye on that engine." So now, the next time you're flying, you have that information from your mechanic saying, "Keep an eye on that number 3 engine." And all the systems in this B-17 Accu-Sim pack are based on the actual maintenance manuals and real crew chiefs that maintain the B-17s today. And we ask questions like, how many hours does an average generator last? Or how many times are you springing oil leaks on this B-17? And how many times do you expect to swing that landing gear before rebuilding it?
Main wheels are down and locked.
On one conversation, we were talking about the flap motor. And another crew chief stepped in and said, "We know the pilots that drop those flaps too early, putting a huge strain on the entire flap system."
Flaps are confirmed down, Captain.
Accu-Sim also gives you a persistent aircraft. When you park your aircraft Monday night, if you decide to take it for a flight Wednesday morning, it's going to be as you left it. You will have the same fuel you had the night before. Your oil levels will be the same, your oxygen, hydraulics, even your heating fluid. So you're going to get a sense over time what it's like to really operate one of these aircraft. When you first get your B-17 Accu-Sim, the first 3 or 4 times in the maintenance hangar, there are probably not going to be any reported problems. You might just have some routine stuff coming up, like oil filters and air filters and things like that. But over time, you'll get a sense of what it's like to live with these aircraft. Their life from day to day is persistent. How are you as a pilot going to use this knowledge to respond to any unpredictable situation? And that's a pilot's truest and biggest challenge. Okay, next we're going to take you through cockpit familiarization, and we're going to start the aircraft up for you, and we'll do a takeoff. When you first sit in an aircraft like this, and you see all these knobs and switches and levers, it can be intimidating. Don't be intimidated by this aircraft. The B-17 is a teddy bear, and it is forgiving. And on top of that, you have a crew that can do almost everything for you. So if you, as captain, want to just grab the yoke and fly the aircraft and let your crew do the rest, you can do that. However, this aircraft is so immersive. Electricity, hydraulic fluid, fuel, oil, even heating fluid flows through this aircraft, and all the systems work in harmony. Now, we've been in the aircraft for a few minutes, and what we really want to do is open these windows, because we do simulate the fact that there is a live crew in this aircraft, and when you're breathing, moisture's coming out, and that moisture goes into the air, hits the cold window, and fogs up. So let's just open these windows. All right. Okay, let's pull up our checklist. Here we have our little checklist under the cruise reports. In this checklist, we start with some really basic things like avoid pivot turning, wait for your engines to warm before you take off, things like that. Okay, let's bring up our upon entering the cabin checklist. Okay, the first item is to check weight and fuel. This is pretty much a standard loadout, and we can see the fuel tanks up there and the hydraulic fluid. Down here we have fuel octane. We can pick 100 octane or 91, and also we have oil grades. These are military oil grades. It's basically the same as 5W30, 10W40, or 20W50 for your car. Warmer temperatures want a higher grade, thicker oil. And just like your car, you can run 5W30 in the summer. I mean, it's not going to blow up. It's just your car is not going to last quite as long if that's the way you're going to treat it, by putting in the wrong oil. And Accu-Sim simulates that slow wear and tear on your engine. So as these parts are moving, oil is there to provide lubrication. These are just basic things that every pilot is trained to pay attention to. You take proper care of your machine, and it'll take care of you. In this case, your machine just happens to be a very beautiful B-17 Flying Fortress. Okay, set parking brakes. Parking brakes set. Flaps and gear are neutral, which they are. Check the freedom of the controls. Controls free and clear, including the rudders. Okay, check each battery with the inverter on. Now the inverter provides AC to those systems that require AC power. Some warning lights, your flaps indicator, and most importantly, your turbochargers. You lose AC power, your turbos not only stop working, they freeze. Okay? So you don't want to lose AC power in your B-17. Let's turn battery 1 on. Now notice here we have no AC volts. Now watch what happens when we turn the inverter on. Now that one battery is powering up the aircraft, but you really need all 3 batteries to be in good shape. Now this is how you check your batteries. You listen to the sound of the inverter. It makes a whine. Now look at the voltage of battery 1. It's actually pretty low. Now watch. Turn on battery 2, turn off battery 1. The voltage of battery 2 is even less than 1. Turn on 3, voltage goes up as both are on. Turn off 2. 3 seems about the same as 2. Okay, so we can check our battery power by looking at the meter and also listening to the whine of the inverter. Okay, now once we start the engines and the generators start running, they will eventually fully charge those batteries. Now it says, start the APU if necessary. The APU is an auxiliary power unit in the waist of this aircraft. It's just an engine with a generator on it. We can tell the waist gunner to go turn the APU on for us, and that'll help save our batteries. There we go.
Yes, sir.
Now the waist gunner is going over to start the APU. Now watch the volts meter. You can hear him starting the engine. Now he's eventually going to flick the switch. It's going to send power up here.
Captain, electrics are coming online.
Alright, there we go. Now the APU is providing us with voltage. Now if you're listening, you heard the load on the APU motor go down. That's because we have some things on in this B-17 right now, and we just placed a load on that little motor back there.